Today from Canfield, Ohio, we feature the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll see who's left standing when the dust settles. Coming up next. This is Trucks and Tractor Power, featuring the superstars of the four-wheel and off-road Jamboree Nationals Monster Truck Challenge. Welcome to Trucks and Tractor Power on the Nashville Network. Today we come to you from the Canfield Fairgrounds near Youngstown, Ohio, for the 4th annual four-wheel and off-road Jamboree Summer Nationals. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Lee alongside Army Armstrong. And Army, when the sun goes down, it cools off and the whole situation changes.
Well, the rule of thumb when the sun goes down, as you well know, the horsepower usually goes up. But because it's been so dry in the Midwest, when the sun goes down and the temperature drops, tonight, maybe the horsepower is going to drop too. The driver that can figure this one out will be our winner, Gary.
Well, side-by-side competition. We'll come back to Canfield, Ohio, and see who figures it out. Gary Lee and Army Armstrong as we prepare to race under the lights here in Canfield, Ohio, the Canfield Fairgrounds. And we've gone through qualifying earlier this afternoon before the sun went down. This is a shot of your fast qualifier, Jack Willman Sr. in the Taurus truck out of Granite City, Illinois.
And Gary, the truck just seems to work perfect. The only thing unique about the run, which recorded a 5:68 quick time, is the nose-over attitude that Willman seems to always land with.
That's a characteristic of that Taurus truck. And here is a characteristic of a loose cannon. This is Colt Cobra in the snakebite truck. Now, he gets out of control right here, hits a car that's parked off course, runs over that junker, and gets her whoa just before he hits a service shed down there. Oh, there's why. A full moon over eastern Ohio. That explains it. Taurus with a bye by being the first qualifier. No problem against Nightmare in round one. Also in round one, we'll have Bigfoot 8, the third quick qualifier against Clydesdale. Carolina Crusher matches up against Bad Medicine. And also we'll find Micro Machine and Nightlife, and King Crunch against the Snakebite. Round one competition here from Canfield Fairgrounds, and there is a look at Nightmare.
Gary, it's kind of interesting. Now, Steve Hess will be driving the Nightmare. He's out of Indiana. This is his turf. He would love to do good here, but this truck's been around for a long time. He goes up against John Moore. No problem. If there has to be two guys in this sport that are highly respected, it's got to be these two fellas. They've gone at each other tooth and nail for years and years, and they both run the old-style truck. This could be an awfully good close race tonight. I don't think we got tonight's winner in this race, but this is going to be a good race.
Two different philosophies, though. We have the short wheelbase Ford Bronco with John Moore, the pickup truck type configuration for Steve Hess. And look at this. Moore picks off the win. Moore has it, no problem, by a fender over Steve Hess.
Hess took just a little bit of a bounce in no man's land. That let Moore plant the horsepower, go on and take the win. But it was a good close race. The replay is going to show you right now. When they get to no man's land, Hess on the far side takes a goofy bounce, if you will, right there. See, that's what
But he pulls out with the horsepower right there, takes the victory by a nose, and here's John Moore with Army Armstrong.
John Moore, anytime you go against Steve Hess, he's a bear.
Yeah, that's Steve with that GMC, that Nightmare truck. Hardest run I've had all weekend. I really enjoyed it. He puts on a good run, really ran hard. We had a good race.
Looks like if Bigfoot makes it through the next round, you might wind up with him. Does that bother you at all?
No, it doesn't bother me at all. I had a good run that time. Steve made me work hard and get a good run, so we'll just take them as they come.
Okay, let's watch this next race and see who you're going to be going up against. Good luck to you.
Sure to appreciate it. Thank you.
Next matchup, there he is, Andy Brass and Bigfoot 8. Perhaps a surprise that he was not the fast qualifier this evening. He was third quick on the grid. He's out of St. Louis, Missouri, in that Bob Chandler Bigfoot 8, the two-frame truck, and he goes up against the pink Clydesdale. This is Bennett Clark. Clark, the guy with the black hat and the handlebar mustache out of Georgia.
Bennett Clark used to be a bull rider on a rodeo circuit, so bucking a bronco is not new to him, but he is in a
natural
lane.
transition.
Yeah, he's in a lane that, remember a moment ago, Steve Hess took a strange bounce to far lane. Let's see what happens to Bennett Clark over there. Oh, okay.
Well, he does a wheel stand through no man's land, and there's no contest because Bigfoot 8 picks up the victory. He will advance And Bennett Clark will head back to that trailer for a long haul back to Georgia.
Looked like Bennett Clark was having a fueling problem with the engine. You notice the flames coming out, but what I was looking for was a common denominator in the far lane. Watch the way they go up the first ramp. The way they come off of that ramp is getting them in trouble. Happened to Hess and it happened to Clark.
Well, you're speaking of an old suspension versus a new suspension.
You're exactly right.
Foot.
But the finish line is the same distance away for both of them, though, Gary.
And here's a look at Wayne Smozanik in Nightlife. He bought this truck from Dave Wyzorik. And there's a look at Wayne. He's up from Jupiter, Florida.
He's an old drag racer. Comes into the sport. We're glad to have him in the sport. He thinks he could be a player, but who does he go up against? The Micro Machine himself, one of the Breen boys racing toys out of Eldon, Missouri. It'll be John Breen.
Army, you talk about Wayne Smozanik coming out of drag racing. He will have to cut a good light right here if he wants to beat the Micro Machine.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. But there's another element to this sport. Not only cutting a good light, bouncing good. Oh, he didn't.
Now, trouble over there in the far lane, and you talk about a common denominator. There may be a problem with that far lane. All the drivers so far are getting very out of shape. They're bouncing a lot.
And the problem comes when you're coming off the first jump, and they're not all bouncing the same way. Smozanik comes off. He bounces rear up. Right in front of him, Clydesdale was nose up. So, see the rear take the bounce? There's something in that lane. They're catching the back wheel on the cars when they're coming down, I believe. But Breen, he goes to the next round, no problem. But in the next round, everybody can't run out of the right lane. Somebody's going to have to go to that left lane.
And now we take a look at Scott Stevens, the Texan in the King Crunch Auto Value truck. And he'll go up against, well, look at this thing. This, the aftermath, the ramifications of getting upside down. This is what happened yesterday. Now watch this run. He already has lost the doghouse on the front of that truck. And that's why they're built with roll cages.
Exactly. The chassis just completely unloaded on him. He and his crew chief, Tracy Smart, they knew the truck was going over as soon as it left the start line. Scott said he could just feel it. The red light bandit. Yeah, you wonder about the red light. You notice Bigfoot has it. So does Colt Cobra. That shows the electrical system in the truck is complete. If that light is not on, when you look at it from the front, that means there's an electrical problem somewhere. Speaking of problems, Scott Stevens is starting this race with a lot of problems.
Well, that's an open-air buggy right now, and it looks like he's going to pull out the victory. Yes, he does. Oh, the snake bite had him. And snake bite had him.
Boy, Scott is excited. He needed that run. It's like he's been punched in the nose so many times this year by punching. Yeah, exactly. To come back and to make a straight run is great, but to make a straight run and to put this other guy on a trailer, you can just feel it. Scott Stevens may have just turned his luck around in Canfield, Ohio.
Upside down so many times this season, but he's never even thought about giving up. He keeps coming back, trying harder. Here's a look at Gary Porter, the Carolina Crusher. Wadesboro, North Carolina, the hometown of this veteran. He has certainly been on a roll this season.
Oh, man, I tell you, talking a moment ago about Scott Stevens, another red light you notice coming in these windows. We keep talking about the technology. Again, that red light you see in the windshield at night racing indicates that the electrical system is complete. On this particular truck, a Van Loo's, the Dodge, his light is located in the grill. That's important because, remember, Gary, there's a kill switch in these trucks in case they get out of shape. You've got to have a complete electrical circuit to make it work.
Van Medicine, the Carolina Crusher. We're in Canfield, Ohio, and this should be the Crusher all the way.
Man, Porter leaves that line like a rocket. Again, in the good lane.
Porter has always had the horsepower. He's always done well on the long outdoor tracks, but now he's learning to dial the chassis, and he's making that chassis work to get the horsepower to the track.
What he's done, he's made a lot of inroads in the field of his transmission. He's teamed up with somebody. I don't know who it is, but he leaves that line just like a pro stocker in a drag racing.
Well, that wraps up round one competition as we eavesdrop on Lauren Bixler, the starter. We're coming back to Canfield, Ohio for round two.
Qualifying is so important. We have a definite good lane and a bad lane, and look where Torres is going. He's quick qualifier for this round. He's going to the good lane, and don't blame him one bit, do you?
He sticks John Moore, and no problem, but that left lane, the far lane, has created some problems this evening here in Canfield. Look there at the light as Lauren Bixler checks with both drivers. He turns them loose. It's a good start for no problem, but here comes the horsepower of Jack Willman Sr. That's what it was, horsepower in no man's land.
Man, that qualifying early in the evening is going to be so important. Remember, they qualified in daylight. The horsepower was different. Torres has done what he had to do. He did it in the right lane. Now, John Moore runs good. He leaves with him. But again, look at the bounce.
Well, Army Torres is turning out the horsepower, but that truck just does not sound quite right. Let's check in with Jack Willman Sr.
Jack, I tell you, the motor just doesn't sound like it's making the power it needs to be. Got a little flutter in there.
Yes, Army. We was only running on 7 cylinders at the one run, and we went over there and worked on it and found the problem, and we're ready to give them a head.
So you were walking wounded a minute ago, but you're ready to go in the next round?
That's correct, Army.
Okay, good luck to you.
Thank you.
We spoke earlier of the good, bad, and the ugly, and here is the ugly. The auto value King Crunch, minus a whole lot of sheet metal with Scott Stevens. And he goes up against the micro machines of John Breen, the Breen Boys Racing. Look at the battering the roll cage is taking.
Yeah, I'm sitting there looking. Scott Stevens has a lot of trust in his chassis builder. That thing, and we're not talking like a 2,000-pound vehicle. We're talking 12, 14,000 pounds, and he's driving it hard. He's still going after him, Gary.
He has it. He has it.
All right.
And look at John
Left
Breen
lane.
almost tip up on the nose.
Out of the bad lane again. You know, I was so busy watching Scott. Breen had his hands full in the far lane.
All right, let's watch Scott again, right here, side by side through no man's land, under throttle low, and Scott takes the victory. He has to be ecstatic. He's with our Army Armstrong.
Well, they say adversity, I tell you what kind of man you're dealing with. Scott, I can't think of anybody in the sports had any more problems that you have, but you're still a player. You and the crew will not roll over, will not give this thing up at all.
Yeah, you know, I guess we've been this way for 10 years. You know, the harder those things slap you in the face, it's the harder we all kind of pull together and, you know, argue and scream and holler at each other. And, you know, the truck's working pretty good now. I'm still a little nervous about that left lane. So far all night I've been able to keep my right lane. Looks like next round I'll probably be able to keep it.
Well, let's take a look at who's in the left lane this time. It's Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher, and there is Mr. Ford. Bigfoot, Andy Brass, Bigfoot 8. Well, Andy obviously has the advantage right now because he's in that near lane.
Yeah, but don't tell Gary Porter that. Chevrolet people believe Porter can pull it off. If anybody can out of the left lane, it might be Gary. Okay, now he clears the first jump.
But look at the horsepower.
Whoa.
Look at the horsepower that Bob Chandler truck developed. It was all Gary Porter through the first half of the run and all Andy Brass through the second half. And watch this again. A good light for Gary Porter.
Yeah,
look at this.
Yeah, he clears the first car, settles down good, decent bounce, but Andy Brass literally flies past him in midair.
A textbook run, and here is Andy Brass.
Well, Gary, the action keeps going. We got a guy that is going to the next round. Andy, how do you feel about this thing? All the bad boys made it past the last stop.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I've been kind of watching the bracket sheet, so it looks like we're going in the left lane. It's not a lane of my choice, but it's something we're going to have to run. We're going to run it hard, push Jack hard in his truck, and hopefully maybe we can make him mess up.
Well, once again, as we take a look at both lanes, we're not really sure what the problem is with the left lane, but obviously you can tell the drivers do not want that lane. Here's a look at our semifinal action with Torres going up against Bigfoot 8, the Carolina Crusher, and King Crunch will then be in the next pairing.
You know, Gary, it's kind of interesting. A lot of drivers will not tell you if there's a weak point any place in the competition. Andy Brass concedes that left place is not the place to be.
Well, here's a look at Jack Willman Sr. in the truck that he owns. This is Taurus. They're out of Granite City, Illinois, just across the river from St. Louis. Now, he's driven this. His son has driven this. There's your red light again, indicating that everything is go with the electrical system. He also has his nephew, Eldon Depew, on occasion in the cockpit. And there's a look at Bigfoot 8, Andy Brass out of St. Louis, Missouri. So these guys are neighbors in the Midwest.
They're neighbors, and they're brothers in making this sport go. For the Chevrolet camp, Taurus is representative. Well, of course, everybody knows about Ford's involvement with Bigfoot, but these guys have been instrumental in taking the sport forward. We keep talking about the red lights and the safety equipment. This sport is going, it's growing. The MTRA, the national organization, are setting the standards and the rules, and that's why we're seeing good racing. Speaking of good racing, Gary,
it's going to be the left lane. Yes!
First
Andy
win of the
Brass.
night.
Andy Brass talked about the problem with the left lane. He put his foot down, and here's an example of truck, chassis, engine, and driver working together. Watch this truck settle down right here, and he's right back on the throttle. No jumping about. He clears the entire second row of cars, and he takes the victory. And here's Andy. Andy going to the championship round in Canfield.
Well, Gary, we know who one of the finalists is going to be. Andy Brass is going to be you, but these two Chevrolet boys want to get a piece of you in the worst way.
Yeah, that's right. You know, we just kind of counted last round on the truck running good, and thanks to guys like BDS and MSD and them. The Ford was running real well, and so I'm thinking we should have fast time in the lane, so we're going to pull lane choice, go into the right lane, and throw whoever ends up in the finals with us, we're going to put them in the left and see if they can do it.
Okay, good luck to you, bud.
Thank you.
All right, Andy Brass, Bigfoot will be in our championship go here, and the last two to have a shot at him will be a pair of Chevrolets, Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher out of Wadesboro, North Carolina. Now the state of Texas, a battered but still drivable King Crunch, the auto value King Crunch of Scott Stevens.
You know, these spectators here are really getting to see some great monster truck racing. They appreciate everybody, but you got an odds-on favorite. You know who it is here. Everybody is kind of pulling for Scott Stevens. They know he's had a tough weekend, but when that light goes green, Scott Stevens has one enemy in this world. That's going to be Gary Porter.
You can't really call Scott Stevens an underdog, but he is so battered up this season. The fans want to see him do well here in Canfield. So it's Chevy against modified Chevy. There's the left lane with the advantage to Scott. Does something break right there, Army, because Gary Porter takes the victory.
Well, like I say, Porter was not going to cut him any slack at all. He knew Stevens had the potential to beat him, so when the light goes green, Porter goes south big time. It's a good race to right here. Bounce comes to Porter. Wacko, he goes to the win.
Once again, the new style suspension. The truck settles down, the horsepower takes command, and Gary Porter wins it.
Well, Gary, we just found out something we don't like to hear. Is it true the word we're getting, you're not reading any oil pressure on the engine?
That's right. When I pull to the line, I'm getting, about 40 pounds of oil pressure, which I'm normally run about 60. When I get to the other end, it is just about on zero. I'm running about 3 pounds of oil pressure when I get to the finish line. I think the oil pickup has broke off of the pump. I'm going to put some more oil in it, overfill it, hoping, the pump can pick it up, without having a pickup tube and everything on there, and hopefully the motor won't lock up.
Okay, we'll be watching you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that could be about a $30,000 gamble right there as Andy Brass surveys the situation, contemplates the competition. Look at those eyes, all concentration and all focus here in Canfield. As Gary Porter says, he's going to overfill that Chevrolet engine with oil, making sure he can go about 6 more seconds against the Foot for the championship here in Canfield. We're coming up with that in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Canfield Fairgrounds, Canfield, Ohio, near Youngstown in eastern Ohio. The four-wheel and off-road jamboree offers a host of activities, not only for the truck lover, but for the entire family as well. To find out more, call or write the Special Events Promotion Company. We are ready now for the final shootout between Bigfoot and the Carolina Crusher. Let's go down to Army Armstrong. He is trackside with some of his thoughts on the final shootout.
Well, Gary, here we go. It's final time, and I tell you what we're going to be seeing. We're going to see the classic battle of Ford versus Chevrolet Bigfoot going against Carolina Crusher, but we're going to be seeing something else. I think you're going to be seeing two of the most gentlemanly drivers in the sport. Andy Brass knows the Chevrolet is having problems. Andy Brass has been in that situation before. Don't look for any games. Look for a heads-up straight race, and they're going to start those trucks, I believe, go to the starting line and race to the other end. Two gentlemen. Let's see which one's going to come out on top tonight.
All right, there's a look at Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher with the oil pickup problem. And he goes up against Bigfoot 8. This is Andy Brass. So we have North Carolina against Missouri.
Well, Gary, this is exactly what I thought would happen. Andy Brass let Gary start his truck, go to the line. He immediately goes into the line with him. They're here to race. They're not here to play games.
Well, they also are considering the good of the entire sport, and not just this one championship run here in Canfield.
Oh, we got a race. Check it out, Gary.
Look at this. Look at the Crusher. And here comes Foot. Bigfoot has so much horsepower. Once that pickup truck settles down in no man's land, we have seen it time and time and time again. The Crusher had him. Gary Porter had him.
They look like fighter pilots dogfighting each other in no man's land. Look at this. Boy, they are heads up.
But watch, Gary Porter has the measure of Foot right here, and here comes Andy Brass. It's all horsepower.
Exactly.
And there's the margin of victory, and here's Andy Brass.
Andy, when you go up against that guy, it's a lot of teamwork that people are not even aware of, isn't it?
That's right. Thanks to guys, our crew members and stuff back there has given a lot of help. We had a little problems with the truck earlier today, but we got it pretty well ironed out. I was watching Gary all day. His times was running about the same. We was running a little bit faster on time. I knew Gary was going to pull a good light, and we just had to not worry about it and just try to play. If we did get behind, play catch up in the middle, and that's what we did.
And just a moment ago, I told you you're going to see a race between two gentlemen. That's exactly what I mean. Gary?
Thanks, Army, and our congratulations once again to Andy Prass. That wraps it up from Canfield, Ohio. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week for another edition of Trucks and Tractor Power. And now, here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.
This Christmas, give Diamonds home videos from Diamond P Sports. For the monster truck fan, young or old, you can't beat the 1-2 punch of this action-packed duo. The original Shake, Battle, and Roll and Shake, Battle, and Roll 2. It's the thunder and fury of unleashed horsepower times 2. And you save $5 through this combo offer. You'll witness the heart-stopping aerobatics of flying monster trucks, the grime of impossible 3-second mud bog races, and the ground-pounding power of truck and tractor pulling. To order, call 1-800-982-7979. Visa, MasterCard, and Discover accepted, or send check or money order for $34.90 plus $6 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. That's 1-800-982-7979. And while you're ordering, pick up on a Diamond P Sports sweatshirt. It's comfortable and stylish with Diamond P sleeve logo. Call 1-800-982-7979.